Hello there guys, welcome back to another C-Sharp tutorial. In the previous videos we covered C-Sharp as a programming language and so how we could write console applications. Later we worked with WinForms apps and so how we could use some of the available WinForms controls. And now we are going to cover database programming. We won't do any programming today, but we will be understanding a few things about databases. Okay, so we start by asking the question, what is a database? And the database is some organized way to store information in the computer. And there could be many ways to store information. You could use information, store the information in hierarchical way, or you could use, for example, in tables. There are other forms like network, etc. However, when people say database, usually that means tables. The information is being stored as tables. So here you have a table. Uh, this is one table. Some applications might require 10 tables, 30 tables, 40 tables. Depends on the type of application and type of information you want to use. Again, when people say database, they mean storing information as tables. Okay. So why using a database? Well, since you didn't write the database management system yourself or the database yourself, companies do it. What that means, they could add some features, like for example using more than one core or more than one CPU core to retrieve data, which could speed things up. They add features like indices and stuff like that, which will also increase the speed, so you have faster access. Also, a database allows you to get the data without worrying about how the data is physically stored on disk. You don't have to worry about inserts, updates, and deletes. And if more than one user is trying to change the same bit of data inside the database, the database management system will handle that for you. You don't have to handle all the complex stuff. If you have to carry out everything yourself, your code and the program will be very hard to write. Okay, and the most important thing, or not the most important, one of the important things also for using database is that they are easier to understand, since they are since the information stored as tables. People could read them easily and understand what they mean. It's not that complicated. Okay. So one of the terms that you are going to face a lot when working with databases is SQL. And SQL is short for Structured Query Language. This language is used to communicate with the database. You give the database command or request information using SQL. And one of the things about SQL is that it's very easy to read and understand. It's not as complex as, for example, C Sharp. If you give anyone some C Sharp code, it will be hard for them to understand what that means. But if you have, for example, select name from people where age greater than 30, for example, this statement, this is SQL. So they could understand kind of what it means. They can have an idea. So it's very easy to work with. Another thing about SQL is that most database management systems support it. So if you learn SQL once, you kind of know how to work with many other databases. Okay? Okay, so now let's go to the next slide. So how does your database interact with your application? Well, basically, the end user interact with the application using a user interface. You design the form, for example, and then your application will get user command or requests, and these will be validated using your application here in the application logic. And then when the computer or your application needs to get some information or change some data, it's going to send these requests as SQL statements into the database management system. Now, the database management system is a piece of software written and provided by the manufacturer of the database. Okay, so for example, you have Oracle Database Management System, MySQL Database Management System, etc. And these comes with the database. So you don't have to know how these are written; they are provided for you. Your application is going to communicate with the Database Management System, and your application will do the changes and retrieve the data from the physical files in the database. Okay, and the Database Management System will retrieve the information from the physical files in the database. Okay, sorry. So when the information gets retrieved or updated in the database, the results will be passed from the database management system back into your application, and your application will display the result into the end user. So let's have a look at an example here. Let's say you want to log in to your Gmail account. Here you have your browser and you enter gmail.google.com and you will get a login window. You enter username and password and hit sign in. Your request will be passed into Google server. So one of the servers here, for example, will receive your requests. And there is an application, a webmail application running on that server. It's gonna need to know if your information is correct. So it's going to issue a request to the database management system, okay, and the database management system will get some data about you, and that data will be passed back to the server. So the server is going to validate your information, make sure that everything is okay, and if all is fine, it's going to generate HTML. That HTML will be passed back to the browser, and your browser is going to render the HTML page again. So if you think about it, as an end user, you don't have to worry about the database. You actually don't see it at all. All you see is the web page, and that's it. Okay, and same thing here. The user is usually interacting at this level. Okay, the user doesn't see the database. The one who can see the database is actually the application logic. The application logic can communicate with the database management system, who knows how data is stored in binary format. Okay, yeah. So this is what's happening behind the scene. Okay. So I think that will be enough for today. I'll be covering more tomorrow, and probably will start working with a simple database management system, maybe MySQL or SQL Server. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.